Mr. Igor Blaževič is a senior advisor at the Prague Civil Society Center between 2011 and 2016. And he worked in Myanmar as the head lecturer of Education Initiative Program. Good morning, Mr. Igor Blaževič.
A real pleasure to be with you and with your audience today.
Yeah. You have been commenting, you have been writing in the columns about the Myanmar. You have been monitoring about the Myanmar situations. I think you already know that this morning there's a bombing at a school which killed 2 dozens of students, and various people were injured. So this kind of bombing informations are coming out of Myanmar. And with linking to that, what is the Spring Revolution stand right now, and how is the situation in Myanmar?
Let me first comment on the most recent horrifying crime committed by the junta, and that's not the only one. Let's say these things are happening basically on a daily basis. These are direct consequence of the wrong approach of the Myanmar neighbors and the regional bodies toward the Myanmar crisis. Min Aung Hlaing and SAC has in the last couple of months received a significant diplomatic acceptance by the Myanmar neighbors and by the regional bodies. And they hope, let's say, that they can lead to certain negotiated process. This is only encouraging Min Aung Hlaing to continue the war of the atrocities, the war of the against the people, and that is leading completely nowhere. Unfortunately, the region neighbors and regional countries are, with their wrong policies, encouraging junta to continue with the disastrous criminal policy. Regarding the current situation, the Spring Revolution is currently again on the critical crossroad. This is not for the first time. There has been a couple of other moments when the revolution was on a crossroad. We are again in such situation. And when I say crossroad, I mean, let's say that from now on, things can develop in a 2 very different directions. One possible direction is that the revolutionary forces will continue with relentless pressure on the SAC and on the military. And when I say relentless pressure, I mean everything. I mean the armed resistance, I mean civic resistance, I mean political alliance, I mean the humanitarian resistance, psychological information warfare, everything. If we continue with this relentless pressure, sooner or later SAC will collapse. We don't know exactly, but it's possible to achieve that. And after that, there is a realistic possibility that the new Myanmar, which will be federal and democratic, can be built. That will be a complex process, but it will be possible. So this is one direction. Another direction is because of the meddling and the pressure of the neighbors and regional bodies, the steam from the revolution can be taken. So that in a certain way, the pressure will kind of become less and less and less, and that will give a break. That will give to the military junta to consolidate the stalemate, the military stalemate, and get a break to prepare the fake sham elections. And through these fake and sham elections, with assistance of the neighbors, basically legitimize themselves as a central government of the Myanmar, so that military regime will survive in a 1/2 of the country, but as a central government recognized by the others. If that happens, military regime will gradually gain strength, move from the current weakness to the more and more strength, and basically kind of push everybody in something what I would call hard and soft surrender.
I would agree that in political front or the diplomatic front, the junta is gaining momentum. Junta is gaining the recognitions from the regional and the global power. For example, Myanmar, he met Xi Jinping in Moscow. That and very recently, and also the neighborings are pushing to recognize, to go into the Myanmar's election plan. But on the other hand, in terms of military fighting, they are also losing the base camps, and Tamil is losing the camps. So what would happen in this scenario?
Look, the key problem is that neighbors and the regional bodies never wanted military regime to be defeated. And they have been for the first 2.5, 3 years waiting for military to do the dirty job. And they have been basically not interfering. They are sitting and waiting, hoping that at the end of the day, let's say the military will consolidate the control and they will go back to the business as usual. In a moment when they realize China is the first, or Russia was the first who break the diplomatic isolation, but Russia is not so important. China, Thailand, India, they are important. When they realize that military regime is collapsing, let's say they started to interfere. And they are interfering now in a way that they don't want to help military win over everybody. They know that's not possible. Military, as you mentioned rightly, military cannot militarily regain the control over the liberated territory. But politically, they can survive. Politically, they can win. And this is exactly what the neighbors and the regional bodies are now doing. They are trying to basically create the military stalemate, the balance military, so that things calm down and then help the military regime politically survive as a central government of the Myanmar, and then force everybody to accept particularly ethnic revolutionary organization, to accept a certain limited autonomy on the territories which they have liberated, and defeat the Burma resistance in a central parts of the country and consolidate the control. This is what the neighbors are doing. Why they are doing it? Because they don't understand Myanmar. This is the first thing. They really don't understand the will of the people. The second, they have their own geopolitical and other interests, and they think that military serves better their interest, and they have a very, very long history of the relations, business and other, with the different segments of the military, so they believe they are protecting their interests better. It's completely wrong. The only thing what they are achieving is they are encouraging military to continue the war, the terror. They are encouraging destruction of the country, and they are not bringing country closer to the solution. But they are prolonging the period in which this devastating war is continuing.
There's growing voices from the regions, from the neighboring country that negotiated settlement. ASEAN, UN agency, all these are calling. And but on the other hand, the Burmese people, Myanmar people they don't want the military anymore. They are disappointed, and they cannot tolerate anymore. So in these situations, what will happen? So how the neighborings are neglecting the wishes of the Burmese people?
Yeah. So look, let's say the neighboring countries are putting
what sort of
currently.
Yeah.
The neighboring countries are putting people of Myanmar the neighboring countries are putting people in Myanmar in a situation of the bad cop and good cop. Let's say the bad cop is a military junta, which is allowed by the neighbors to continue the pure war of the atrocity and terrors. So this is a bad cop. On the other side, the neighbors are playing this good cop game. Let's say offering ceasefire, the inclusive negotiated solution, but they make no pressure, not a single pressure on the military junta. They are even adding additional resources in the hands of the junta to continue the war. And by this negotiating settlement, let's say basically the only thing what they are offering is what I call soft surrender. Basically, stop to defend yourself, stop to try to achieve a freedom, democracy, federalism, and so on. Let military continue to be the government in an epido, and you will get a little bit autonomy and a little bit opportunity to do corrupt, illegal businesses. This is what the neighbors are offering to Myanmar. It is understandable that people of Myanmar, after all sacrifices, after decades of the experience with the military, don't want to accept that surrender, but it will be hard. It will be next 6 to 8 months. We will be in a situation in which on one side military will continue its terror and the neighbors will continue with their wrong, misplaced policies. So the revolutionary forces and people of Myanmar unfortunately need now to endure these 6-8 months of the wrong policies of the neighbors and continue their revolutionary struggle.
In this scenario, is there any possibility of collapse or the exhausted of a spring revolution?
I think if we keep the political alliance between the Burma resistance and the ethnic resistance, the junta cannot defeat the revolutionary forces. Only in a case if the ethnic resistance will in a certain way pull out from the joint struggle for the center, and I call it battle for the center. If they pull out from the battle of the center, the Burma resistance will not have a strength enough to cope with the military. So we really need to stay together in that. And that means primarily politically. If we stay politically together, then the revolutionary forces will also stay together in terms of the military cooperation and military capacity to continue. It is necessary, and I'm again and again repeating, it's a very, very important that the political leadership on the Burma side needs again and again to assure the ethnic revolutionary stakeholders that in a future Myanmar, they will have self-determination, that they will have a federal Myanmar and their own ethnic autonomy. And at the same time, ethnic revolutionary forces needs to understand that it's necessary to finish the job. And they can finish the job only if we remain together. Burma resistance together with the ethnic resistance. Because if the revolutionary forces will not finish the job this time, sooner or later, military will come back. Let's say they will, in a moment when they will be recognized as the legitimate government of the Myanmar, this is the moment when the military will start to recover. Because they will have access to the finances, to the weapons, to the even bigger diplomatic engagement, to the investments, and they will just regain the strength and then continue systematically, patiently to push back everybody from the territory what they have liberated.
I agree with you that the battle of a center is an important one, decisive one. But to get a political and political path, ethnics and Burman all to come all together, and we have been talking about this for 4 years. It doesn't happen. So technically, what sort of unity, political path could happen? Do we need a transitional federal government right now?
Look, let's say I don't think that in this moment we need the final political agreement how the future Myanmar will look like. Let's say Myanmar is a too complex country. The current situation is politically too complex. There is no security for the people to meet, to properly discuss the situation, and so on. So I don't think that it's realistic that we can make a transitional constitution in this moment, that we can make a transitional, agreement about the future arrangement of the Myanmar. What we need a pragmatic alliance which will agree how the transition process will look like after the fall of the junta. This is so that we agree on the process, not on the outcome of the political negotiations, one thing. And the second thing, let's say, I think that we need something what I will call effective coordinating executive body of the revolutionary struggle. Not the transitional government, because when you call it transitional government, then immediately question asks who is involved, who is not involved, and so on. So I think that we need to have a more pragmatic executive coordinating body, which will be partly consisting of some key people from the NUG, some key people from the key ethnic revolutionary organizations, and they create these kind of the executive bodies, which is on a daily basis coordinating politically and militarily the ongoing struggle. Not everybody will be included in this coordinating body. Some will, for different reasons, decide not to sit there physically, but in a certain way they can be consultant all the time. So even if they are not formally part of that, informally they can be consulted. So I think that we need a certain kind of pragmatic coordinated alliance, but the one which is efficient, the one which does not meet once in a month somewhere on the Zoom, but the one which is on a daily coordinating communication. One thing, and the second thing, we need to create quite a number of the working committees which will prepare future policies. We are not prepared for the fall of the junta. We can defeat the junta, but we are really not ready for this kind of transition process and not for the constitution, but for the concrete policies. So I think creating a mixed working bodies between some people from the Burma, some from the ethnics, which are creating post-junta immediate policies will be very, very useful.
Yeah, any additional comment from you?
Look, my only kind of additional comment is that we are, my last additional comment is, let's say, we are now in a certain way in a low tide of the revolution. Let's say for, 6 months ago, we have been on a high tide of the revolution because we are gaining the successes. Let's say military was losing again. Now we are again in a low tide moment. Let's say because of the earthquake has been one shock too much. People are anyhow already extremely exhausted, and then the earthquake came, this pressure and meddling of the neighbors. Junta became a little bit better in a drone warfare. So in a certain way, now resistance forces are a little bit in a back moment. We just need to endure that. Let's say military is still weak and defeatable. We need now to stand firm against the meddling of the neighbors. That should be done by the political representation of the revolution, but also the civic society and the strike committees needs to mobilize public rejection of the outside forces, and we need to endure this moment and continue the pressure, and as I said, finish the job. And once when we finish the job, we can make a better country in which finally the peace and recovery will come to the country.
Thank you, Mr. Igor Blaževič.
Thank you very much. It was really an honor for me to be invited.
Yeah.